unseen power. They speak of thunder, and they think of Zeus. They speak of war, and they think of Ares. But they forget who sits beside the throne, who shaped Olympus not with violence, but with vengeance, who ruled not with fire, but with silence and will. This is not the tale of a goddess of love. This is the tale of a goddess of oaths, of fury, of queenship itself. This is the story of Hera, wife, sister, queen, not the shadow of Zeus, but the storm behind his reign. Daughter of the old gods, before Olympus, before thunder ruled the skies, the Titans reigned. In the shadow of Cronus and Rhea, 6 children were born. Among them, Hera, born into fear, raised in silence. Cronus swallowed his children whole, fearing the prophecy of his downfall. But Rhea hid the last, Zeus, and the wheel of fate began to turn. In the cavernous belly of Cronus, Hera waited, not in panic, but in patience. She would emerge not as a child of war, but as its consequence. When Zeus returned and forced Cronus to regurgitate his siblings, Hera was freed, reborn into chaos, and the war that followed, the Titanomachy, reshaped the world. The war for the world. For 10 years, gods and titans clashed. Zeus led the rebellion. Poseidon struck with oceans. Hades raged with shadows. And Hera, though not a warrior, was no less part of the new order. When the Titans fell and the cosmos was split, Hera did not claim a domain of her own. Not yet. Zeus claimed the sky, Poseidon, the sea, Hades, the underworld, and Hera, she claimed Zeus, not as conquest, as strategy, the marriage that shook the heavens. They say Zeus courted Hera with persistence. He transformed into a wounded bird, shivering in the rain. When Hera took pity and cradled him, he transformed back, triumphant. She resisted, not once, not twice, but finally relented. Their union was sacred, the first divine marriage, the template of fidelity, a symbol to mortals of commitment, of bond, of oath. But Zeus was no husband of peace. His infidelities would become legend. And Hera, bound by pride and law, did not seek to leave. She chose revenge, wrath of a queen. Zeus's lovers paid dearly, but not from his hand, from hers. Io, a priestess, turned into a cow to hide her from Hera. But Hera knew. She demanded the cow as a gift, set Argus, the 100-eyed watchman, to guard her, even when Hermes slew Argus. Hera placed his eyes in the peacock's feathers, an eternal reminder. Leto, mother of Artemis and Apollo, chased across the world by Hera's fury. No land dared give her sanctuary, until she found Delos, a drifting island without roots. There, she gave birth, trembling. Semele, a mortal, coaxed into asking Zeus to reveal his true form. He did. She burned, but Hera had whispered that fatal request into her ear. Callisto, Lamia, Alcman, the list stretches across time, a procession of ruined lives. The children of Hera. From her union with Zeus came children not of love, but of purpose. Ares, god of war, rage incarnate. Not loved, not adored, but feared. Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth, who delayed Leto's labor out of Hera's spite. Hebe, cupbearer of the gods, later wife to Heracles. And in some tales, Hephaestus, born without Zeus, hurled from Olympus by Hera when his form displeased her. In other versions, Zeus is the one who cast him out. But in all versions, Hephaestus is the rejected god, the unloved son. Yet it was he who returned, in wrath and brilliance, forging thrones, weapons, and traps. Heracles, son of Zeus, enemy of Hera. Of all Zeus's sons, none drew Hera's hatred like Heracles. She tried to kill him from birth, sending serpents into his cradle. He crushed them with infant hands. When he grew, Hera struck him with madness. He killed his wife and children. As penance, he faced 12 impossible labors, each one shaped or sabotaged by Hera, the Lernaean Hydra, whose heads multiplied, the Stymphalian birds stirred by her winds, the belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons, allies of Hera. And when he died, burned alive by poisoned blood, his mortal body perished, but his soul ascended, and Hera, bitter yet bound by Olympus, accepted him, even gave him Hebe as a wife. The irony hung heavy in the halls of Olympus. The judgment of Paris. Eris, goddess of discord, cast a golden apple to the fairest. Hera, Athena, Aphrodite, each claimed it. They turned to Paris, prince of Troy. Each offered a bribe. Athena offered wisdom and war. Hera offered power and kingship. Aphrodite offered love, the love of Helen. He chose love. He chose Aphrodite. And Hera never forgot. She burned with quiet rage. And when the Trojan War erupted, she stood against Troy. Not for glory, for vengeance. She was not a warrior. She was the war. The trial of Zeus. There came a time when Hera, Poseidon, and Athena conspired. Tired of Zeus's tyranny, they chained him in his sleep. But Thetis, sea nymph and mother of Achilles, summoned Briareus, a 100-handed giant, to free him. Zeus awoke. Rage followed. Hera, though queen, was lashed with storms. She screamed not. She remembered. Goddess of order. Hera was more than vengeance. She presided over marriage, the bond between gods and mortals. Her temples were among the oldest. Her festivals, the Heraia, honored the sacred flame of union. In Argos, she was worshipped as the city's protector. In Samos, her sanctuary stood vast and eternal. Mortals feared Zeus, but they respected Hera, for they could see her in every vow, every bride, every betrayed wife who stood with dignity and wrath. The final image. Hera never fell. She was never overthrown. She did not fade like the Titans or suffer like Prometheus. She endured, Queen of Olympus, not in Zeus's shadow, but beside his throne. And while his thunder roared, it was Hera who made the skies tremble. The immortal wrath. You were told Hera was jealous. You were told she was cruel, but no one tells you what it means to be eternal in a world ruled by betrayal. This is not the tale of a goddess scorned. This is the tale of a goddess who never yielded, a force not of affection, but of dominion, a queen carved in marble in silence, and now you've heard her story. But Olympus still echoes with secrets. Do you hear them? Because Hera, she is only the beginning. The mortal queens she watched Hera, watched more than gods. She watched mortals, queens, wives, mothers. She saw Clytemnestra waiting for Agamemnon's return from war, heart swelling with betrayal. She saw Penelope, weaving and unweaving, faithful to a ghost lost at sea. She saw Medea abandoned, burning with vengeance. Hera did not act out of mercy, but out of scrutiny. Every vow broken by a king echoed in her temples. Every queen dishonored was a fire kindled at her altar. She was the silent breath in the hall of every palace, the cold wind on wedding nights forged in strategy, not love. The bitter tears of mortal brides echoed in the stillness of Hera's sanctuaries. She bore witness, not to grieve, but to remember, not to comfort, but to ensure that justice would one day circle back. She was not their savior. She was their reckoning. The sacred renewal every year at the river Canathos in Argos, Hera was renewed. They bathed her statue in sacred waters, not as ritual, but resurrection. They said she regained her virginity, but beneath the surface it was something deeper. She did not need purification. She needed control. Each cleansing was not surrender. It was reclamation. A reminder that even the queen of the gods could reset the world around her. that no matter how often Zeus strayed, no matter how many mortal women bore his children, it was Hera who reasserted her dominion, not through affection, through ritual, through memory, through law. When they lifted her statue from the waters, dripping with eternity, they crowned her once again. And Olympus, whether it admitted it or not, listened. Her cults and city-states in Argos, she was Hera Argaea, their protector, their law, their matron. In Samos, she was older than the Olympians themselves. They claimed she was born there, beneath a Lygos tree by the river Imbrasos. Her temple stood like a mountain of marble, colossal, ancient, sacred. In Sparta, she was honored before battles. In Elis, she was the flame behind the women's games, the Heraia. Even in distant colonies, across Magna Graecia and Ionia, they built her altars. Priestesses served not in submission, but in solemn power. They were guardians of unions, of thresholds, of kingdoms. To worship Hera was not to seek love. It was to swear loyalty. It was to enter a contract, one not easily broken. In a world of chaos, she represented something unshakable, an oath written in divine ink. Hera's silence and power. Many called her silent, cold, resentful. But silence is not weakness. It is control. While the other gods quarreled, Hera listened. She learned the weaknesses of every Olympian. She knew Apollo's pride, Artemis's distance, Athena's isolation. She knew when Poseidon's waves crashed too loudly, and when Hades's shadows lingered too long. And she knew Zeus more than anyone. She knew the cadence of his lies, the flicker in his eyes before deceit, the stillness before he vanished into the arms of another. But she did not scream. She did not fall. She sharpened her memory into daggers. She carved her fury into the bones of history. She turned suffering into sovereignty. The gods she could not control. There were gods Hera could bend, and there were gods beyond even her reach. Dionysus, child of a mortal woman, and Zeus. He should have been erased, yet he survived, carried in Zeus's thigh, reborn in madness and ecstasy. Hera despised him, not for who he was, but what he symbolized, an intrusion, a triumph of chaos over tradition. She plotted to destroy him, sent madness, sent hunters, sent silence, but he danced around her laws. His cults grew where hers were rooted, drunken songs where sacred hymns once rang. Then there was Hades, distant, brooding, removed. He cared little for Olympus, less for marriage, but even he respected Hera's sovereignty. When Persephone was taken, Hera did not interfere. That was a sister's grief, not a queen's matter. Not all gods were subjects. Some were shadows beyond her throne, mortal descent and divine wrath. Some say the gods lived above men, untouched. But Hera's reach extended downward, deep into mortal veins. She cursed bloodlines. Entire dynasties unraveled under her gaze. House after house fell, not by her hand, but by her curse. Niobe, who mocked Leto, watched her children die. Pentheus, who denied Dionysus, torn apart by his own mother. Agave, Semele, Alcmena, all names haunted by Hera's presence. She did not throw the final blow, but she lit the match. And as mortals wept, prayed, and bled, they knew. The queen was watching. Her symbols and omens, the peacock, regal, divine, eyes across its feathers. A reminder of Argus, her slain guardian. A symbol of eternal vigilance. The cow, sacred in her temples, a symbol of patience and nurture. But behind those calm eyes, judgment. The scepter, not Zeus's bolt, but no less powerful. A staff of rulership, of lawful dominion. And in the skies, her signs. A sudden silence at a wedding. A broken vow in a temple. A mother's cry at birth. Omens she left behind, clues to those wise enough to listen, warnings to those foolish enough to cross her. Hera was never loved like Aphrodite, never feared like Hades, never adored like Athena. She was obeyed, she was respected, she was endured. For every flame that flickered in a hearth, Hera was there. For every vow sworn under heaven, Hera bore witness. She was not the goddess of comfort, she was the goddess of permanence. And when the world forgets Olympus, Hera will remain, not as myth, but as memory. Stop. If you have seen until this part, you're going to love this videos. Give like and subscribe.